Welcome to Eight at the Table presents 101 with we're here with Jamark today.
Hello.
So we're about to talk about why are you single after 30, right? So that's a good one because a lot of us are out here single after 30.
Yes, we are. And we want to know why.
We want to know what's up. So Jamark,
Hey, Lonnie.
hi Jamark. So how long have you been single, Jamark?
Right now, I've been single for about a year and a half.
A year and a half?
Yes.
Okay, you've been married before.
Yes, I was.
So we can't say you're not marriage material because you've been there.
Yeah. Well, I don't know
Well,
about
we
that.
don't know. You might not be. You might not
I
be.
might not be.
So why do you think that you're single?
I think because of past relationships, you sort of sometimes carry things over. And I don't call it trauma, but sometimes we tend to carry things over from one relationship to the next, right? It's like that old cliche that talks about, you can change towns, but if you don't change your attitude, no matter what you do in that town, you're still going to be that same person. So your problems tend to follow you. And I'm talking about our own personal issues. And so for me, I think that there was a lot of changes that I need to make internally in order to have a longer lasting relationship. So it's not so much that the woman is to blame in this. I think so much for myself, the way I look at it is that I have some soul searching that I need to do in order to succeed at the next relationship a lot more than the previous one.
That makes sense. So a lot of times, so basically this is something that we've talked a lot about. It's like we need to realize that we are the ones that need to make the changes.
Yeah.
And you've gotten to that point.
I've gotten to that point because it's kind of like, it's a lot of times we talk about taking personal responsibilities, right? And if you think about that word responsibility, you wouldn't allow someone to just coming into your house, a stranger, and pay for your bills, for example, right? You would probably be like, hey, there's something weird with that. And I think emotionally, we have to be responsible for our own emotions and our own mistakes and take that responsibility. So for me personally, it was a hard thing to do. It was easy for me to accept the good parts, but it was very difficult for me to accept the bad parts. But I had to face that. I had to come to the term of saying, well, wait a minute, something I must have done has caused this, because there were a lot of similarities on how the relationships ended.
So you noticed that because all the ending were so similar, like
Yeah.
them, it must not be them, it's me.
Exactly.
Okay, so how do you feel about dating now?
I'm open to it. It's a lot better because I'm more conscious of myself now. And so it's a lot easier. And because of that, also what you do is you see the red flags a lot faster. Not just in yourself, but you see the red flags. And sometimes we use that term red flag as in a way of judging someone else. But the red flags mean that this is not compatible with me. It doesn't mean that that person is bad. It just means that that person is not compatible with my own personal being. And so you want to just push that away as fast as possible.
I agree with that because I feel like a lot of times when, and I'll say before when you were dating and you didn't realize the issues and the things, you probably were able to get into certain relationships that you had to end because of those things were not what you were necessarily looking for. And it took a little bit longer to realize that compared to being older and realizing this is what I want, this is not what I want. And now you are able to spot those signs before you even jump into a relationship.
Exactly. And I was listening to your previous segment with Yumi and Marie, and one of the things that you spoke about was the savior, right? And I always wanted to be that savior. In fact, Marie and I had conversation about that months ago, and I remember when she was like, "You want to be wanted," and I didn't understand it when she said it, and listening to the segments and looking at Eight at the Table a lot more, I picked up a lot on that show, right? And it has taught me that, yeah, some men want to be wanted, right? In fact, everybody wants to be wanted, but you have to put a cap on how much that want versus what you can provide. Because there's a big difference, right?
Can you explain that? Because I don't
Yeah,
get
so
it.
you may want to save someone, but it's not in your power to do it. So
Okay.
you're basically fooling yourself and thinking that I can take this on, right? And so again, that's another part of me that had to do a little bit of soul searching, that I cannot save every woman that comes into my life.
So you had a save him complex.
I had a saving complex, yes, I did.
Okay, so do you think that you have given that up, and now you're looking for someone that is actually compatible or in the same bracket as you?
I'm looking for a teammate.
Okay.
Because if you think about the saving, that means that someone is broken, right? And you're constantly fixing something that you have no idea because you've never been there, right? And it's like the person can only give you so much of their emotions and so much of the truth because you really don't know what's going on. And women and men are so strikingly different in their emotions that what she tells you is the only window you have into this
But are
department.
we really different though?
Emotionally, yes, I believe that. Through my experience, it has shown me that.
I
Yes,
don't necessarily agree with that.
I understand.
Like I don't agree with that because I think that at some point in our life, yeah, maybe we are totally different. But as we grow as people, I think that well, and I say over time, I think that we've gotten to the point where we are so similar.
I could see why you would say that, but for me personally, my personal experience has taught me that whereas like a man's emotions are different than the woman's emotions, or maybe the way they convey that emotions are different. Maybe we have the same emotions and we feel the same things, but the way we convey and communicate that emotions are really, really different. And I think that that's the biggest paradigm in relationships is that we don't understand it well enough to say, well, I understand what she's saying today. Or she can say, I understand what this man is saying to me today. Right? Because we want what? We often say we want direct communication, but direct communication is not always good in a relationship.
I'm saying it depends on the person. I think that I myself I will want direct communication because if you're not direct with me, it's not going to work out. And I think that a lot of times what happens is that when we're having these conversations where you're saying we're totally different, I think that's where the problem comes at because I think we are so alike that it's like it's a misconception
Okay.
where we get and I get it, and I think that some women are like, oh, I want to be treated this way, I want to do this, but some women want to be treated just like I want you to tell me, I want you to be straightforward, I want you to do this, I want you to do that, and there's a problem. There's a problem with that because maybe you don't understand that a lot of us are so similar to you that it's like, maybe that's where the
Okay.
problem is.
Maybe you're right, but I do like the mystery of finding out about my woman. If she had came home every day and told me, this is how I feel about you, it would be a little bit weird for me. I'd rather her tell me through actions sometimes rather than words. And so I guess maybe I'm articulating this the wrong way. So when I talk about direct communication, I don't mean about the things that you aspire for each other, right? The direct communication I'm talking about is a little bit different. It's like I want to be able to tell her I understand her without her having to say a word to me. And I want that back from her because she paid so much attention to who I am. She understands, like, you know what? Just bringing a cheesecake home is good enough rather than
But is it?
I said, just bringing me a slice of cheesecake is good enough on my birthday, let's say, than to go out and buy me a Hermes scarf. You see what I'm saying? Because to me, that kind of communication says that you've been paying attention, that I'm not the guy for the Hermes scarf. Not that I wouldn't
No.
appreciate it,
Yes.
but the cheesecake as being my favorite cake
No,
would make more sense to me.
Jamal, I think I get that. I get that. Of course, I think that the woman has to pay attention to what it is that you want, and the guy as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm not just talking about that type of stuff. I'm talking about, number one, I like to say what's on my mind. If I come home and you piss me off, I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna be like, yo, that was not the vibe.
Yeah.
Like you messed up. You did this. You did that. And we should be able to communicate and fix that. And I
And
would
I agree with
expect
that.
the same thing back.
I agree with that. And I'm going to tell you why, because that's one of the things that I had to learn, right? It's like I wouldn't be that person to speak my mind on certain things. I would bottle it up and say, you know what, I'll fix it, right? Because again, I'm the rescuer, right? So I'll fix this. And I always thought that I could fix everything in a relationship without say so. But you need to communicate with the person in order to fix certain things. And so that I would agree with you that, yeah, I totally am 100% in that. Like, tell me if I fuck up, say, hey, listen, you know what? You messed this up. I don't like the way you treated me. I don't like the way you brought this point out. You know, I want to know about that because I want to be able to change that dynamic.
Yeah, and I think that goes with like for dating too.
Yeah, I agree.
It's like now we're at a point where now we know what it is, what the issues are, and what we like and what we don't like, and we are willing to not go through the runaround. Now we're in a relationship for a year. It's not gonna work out. We're not good for each other, and we're not doing all that. Let's get it together. Now we know we're dating. I know, that thing he did last week, I don't like it. I'll have a conversation with you. If it's good, it's good. If it's not, then we need to move on and,
Yeah, I agree with that. For
Yeah,
sure.
but, I think that we're so much alike when it comes to being like a man and a woman and how you feel and the feelings and stuff like that, that at this point, it's like, I think that dating at 30 should be easier. I think that it's harder just because now there's so many other ways that people date, right? Like online, like it's harder to come up to someone at a bar than it was back in the days because that's all we had.
Yeah.
Now it's like I'm dating online. I got 5 people on my roster. Like, how do I,
You
know what I'm
ask for
saying?
the IG before you ask for the number now, right?
Yes. It's like,
Back
what's
in the
your
days,
IG?
it was different. It was like, hey, you have a conversation and you get the number and then you
Yes.
call, and the process was a lot more drawn out. So you had
Yeah.
time to learn about the person. Now everything is fast paced.
But Jamar, can we say, was it easier back then when you were able to have those conversations up front than now where now we're on Instagram and you have this
Yeah, it
whole
was
persona that is not even you. It's like you're a totally different person that you're not in real life. This is like your IG persona and then you have your real you.
Well, I disagree because if you look at my IG, you'll see me in it.
Okay, but that's you.
But I can only speak for myself.
Most
but I
people-
understand what you're saying. Most people are
It's like,
presenting
yes.
this aura about them that they may not really possess. I agree with that.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So I just think that it's a little bit harder now because you don't really know. You have the thing where it's like, is this who you really are? Do we have those type of conversations and stuff like that? So, that's just what I think.
No, and I agree to a certain degree. But if you think about it, like when I got married, it was when Instagram didn't exist, right? So
Yeah.
I had to go through the process. So in turn, I ended up marrying that woman because I was able to have enough time to learn about her. And I think going forward, that's the key actually, is to be able to push all the negativity of social media and really learn about the person,
Yeah.
right? So it's a lot harder now because the world is fast paced, cars are faster, internet is faster, everything is faster.
Jamark, so we come to this point, right? It could be easier today in your 30s, but at the same time, it could be a little hard. So, we're gonna do some research on this and see how, what it's like for other people, and then we're gonna come back to you. Okay? So thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next week.